Hi, today we're going to be looking at key examination questions for daily hassles. We looked at daily hassles as sources of stress in lecture 4. So if you haven't actually listened to that, I suggest you go back and listen to that before you start looking at the examination focus questions. So this is just a quick reminder of what daily hassles and daily uplifts are, and example of what we went through in lecture 4 of the hassles and uplift scale and the two key studies. Okay, so looking at question 1, 4 marker, explain what psychological research has shown about the stressful impact of either life changes or daily hassles. So it's entirely up to you for this question. You can choose to focus on the two key studies for life changes, which was Raytel and Mark, or you can focus on daily hassles aspects, or you can do one from each. It's entirely up to you. I'll suggest it says what has shown, so you don't really need to do a thing about the aims, procedures. What you really need to focus on in this particular question is the findings and conclusions. Okay, so let's look at daily hassles. This is a daily hassles lecture. We can look at the research by Boutier in terms of it found that first year French psychology students, um, they scored highly on a depressive scale, and it correlated with the amount of hassles that they went through during that first transition. Okay, or you might focus on a Gervais one with the nurses. It's entirely up to you. So just shown and what we can conclude. So those two findings and conclusions, and that should be enough to give you the 4 marks. So make sure you specifically talk about the key researcher's name. Next question. Lee and Dennis were talking in a doctor's waiting room. Dennis remarked that his new neighbours were very noisy and that whenever he drove into town, it was getting increasingly difficult to find anywhere to park. Not really a life change there. So from there, I'll be like, oh, they're hitting on daily hassles here. Lee said that his wife had died recently. So Lee's like, ooh, Lee's had a big change in his life. So that is a big life change. And that he was just about to retire. Again, another big change. So using examples from the conversation above, discuss the difference between life changes and daily hassles. And again, this is a key application question because they're using names such as Lee and Dennis. So you have to actually talk about Lee and Dennis in your examination answer. So Lee, for example, you say that he's going through a life change, which is because his wife has died recently, he's about to retire, so he's had to do a major shift in his life pattern. Whereas Dennis, for example, he's basically going through daily hassles. The thing about noisy neighbors, sort of noisy. When he drove into town, it was really noisy, noisy neighbors. Finding anywhere to park. So you have to actually talk about the hassles that he's going through as well within your answer, and that should be enough to give you the 4 marks. Okay, this is simply fairly simple one. The following examples of stress in everyday life. Some are life changes and some are daily hassles. From the list, select 2 examples of life changes and 2 examples of daily hassles. There you've got so many to play from here, for example. But I like doing a process of elimination. So I just like to make sure I know what all of these are first before I put my 2 in each box. And you have to be very careful and read it. So life changes, daily hassles. Sorry if it's cut off on the screen there. So life changing, daily hassles. Just select 2. So divorce will be a life change, for example. That will be A. Household chores will be a daily hassle, which put that as B. Room temperature will be a daily hassle. I can put that as C. Retirement from work will be a life change. I can put that in that box. Traffic jams, daily hassles. Getting married will be a life change. Changing school will be a life change. Missing a bus will be a daily hassle. So again, you can pick any of the 2 basically and put them in the most appropriate boxes. Right, so explain what psychological research has shown about the stressful impact of either life change or daily hassle. So we kind of answered that question already in the beginning. Shown, findings and conclusions. Do 2 of your key studies. You could do Boutier and Gervais. In, out, get out there, only 4 marks. Okay. During the last few months, Paula has suffered from headaches and colds and has been having difficulty sleeping. She decided to keep a diary and found that her headaches, colds, and sleep problems were associated with experiences such as having too much homework. Too much homework is not really a life change, so that is definitely a daily hassle. Losing house keys, daily hassle, and being stuck in traffic, another daily hassle. So what is a name for these sorts of stress-related experiences? Only 1 mark. Don't need to write full sentences. Just write daily hassles. Full stop. Easy mark. Use your knowledge of psychology to explain why Paula might be feeling unwell. So your knowledge of psychology basically is, what do we know so far about how the body responds to stress? Is when you have stress hormones going through your system, what does it do? It can actually impair the immune system, which makes us more susceptible to illnesses. Okay, so that will be what you need to write. This is a 4 mark. He didn't actually show it, but you need to talk about how Paula, again, they use the name, so it's an application question. How Paula, all the things she's suffering from, basically, in terms of losing house keys, that's constant stress hormones going through your system, basically, having too much homework. Again, they're constantly going through a system all the time, so the heart pressure is always going on. Think about how the body's response to stress, and then that eventually will start impairing the immune system. Okay, so that will give you enough of 4 marks. And that is the end of lecture 4A. So lecture 4B, what I'm actually going to be showing you a 12-mark question, and this 12-mark question are going to be covering both life changes and daily hassles. Okay, so please check back that particular video. Okay, take care, bye bye.